One stormy Sunday morning, a desperate crowd filled the massive hall of Holy Ground Ministries. Whispers rippled through the rows as they raised their necks to catch sight of Prophetess Patricia, popularly known as Mama See It All. Some said she could peer straight into a person's soul, revealing secrets no one could ever know. Others swore that she had the power to speak directly with God. But today, something unsettling hung in the air. Just then, a scream echoed from the side of the hall. A lady named Agatha, one of Mama See It All's trusted aides, rushed to the front, wide-eyed and shaking. She did it again. Mama healed a cripple. The congregation erupted in cheers. But Elizabeth, a quiet churchgoer who had attended for months, noticed something strange. She had seen this very crippled man walking around the market just days before. Doubt clawed at her heart. But who would believe her? Mama See It All was powerful, untouchable. Her followers will fight you just to protect her. Years back, Patricia had been a simple girl from a humble, God-fearing family. Her parents raised her to be honest, devoted, and to walk in the light. She would be shining the hope of their church, leading Sunday school, organizing prayer meetings, and singing in the choir. Everyone adored her, and some even said she was destined for greatness. But no one foresaw how her path would twist in such a dark direction. Years later, after struggling to build her ministry without success, Patricia attended a grand conference for pastors. There she met several famous preachers who seemed to hold a secret power. The leader, Pastor Benji, pulled her aside. "You are trying to be godly, but you will never make an impact until you are willing to sacrifice." He talked about a special ceremony, one that will require a significant offering from her. At first, Patricia hesitated, but Pastor Benji promised her it will grant her the influence she desperately sought. Driven by her desire to succeed, she agreed. That night, she participated in a strange ritual, giving up her chance to ever have children as an offering. The pastors gathered around, chanting, while Patricia's heart pounded with a mixture of fear and anticipation. When it was over, she felt an air power settled around her like a dark cloak. She couldn't explain it, but something had changed. After returning from the conference, Patricia's fortune began to shift. People started flocking to her services, and soon the entire country heard of Mama See It All. Her church began filling up with members from every corner of Nigeria and beyond. Her fame grew, and with it her wealth. But this was only the beginning. Unknown to her followers, Prophetess Patricia, the woman they worshipped as Mama See It All, was far more than just a deceitful prophetess. Beneath her human exterior lay an ancient sinister secret. Patricia was a half-human, half-serpent, a hybrid of darkness whose origin traced back to a mysterious underwater covenant she had entered after joining the occult. Every midnight she would disappear from her luxurious mansion, leaving the world of mortals behind. In the dead of night, she would shed her human form and transform into a creature with skills as dark as midnight. This transformation marked her journey to the underwater kingdom, where her true allegiance lay. Patricia would slip silently into the river behind her mansion, vanishing beneath the waters as if swallowed by the very earth itself. There, in the depths, she would join her occultic brothers and sisters, other pastors and prophets who had pledged themselves to the marine kingdom. There, they shared twisted wisdom, dark strategies, and skills to keep their congregation bound in deception. For Patricia, this was where she drew her power. The Marine Queen, a towering figure with serpentine features, bestowed upon her strength, vision, and the ability to see into the lives of her followers. But there was a price for this power: her soul, her humanity, and perhaps, most disturbingly, her womb. Patricia's sacrifices to the Marine Kingdom had left her barren, a trade she had willingly made to gain authority and influence in the physical world. Back in her church, no one suspected a thing. To them, Patricia was a holy prophetess, and they were oblivious of her midnight disappearances. Her congregation continued to grow as people flocked from far and wide, desperate for miracles, healing, and deliverance. Those who sought her favor were willing to pay any price, from cash offerings to livestock and even precious family heirlooms. Patricia's ministry had become a relentless machine, swallowing people's wealth and hopes alike. Within months, she began implementing strange new practices. Each member was handed a mirror, which she called the mirror of life. This mirror, she would say with a commanding tone, is blessed by the Almighty Himself. Every morning, look into it, speak to it, and you will see parts of your spirit that needs healing. Her congregants cherished these mirrors, believing they were on a path to spiritual growth. But in reality, the mirrors were tools connected to the marine world. Through them, Mama could peer into her members' lives, studying their weaknesses, secrets, and fears. One Sunday, Mama called a young woman named Kemi to the front. "Last night, you argued with your husband about his job, didn't you?" she said, a sly smile crossing her lips. Kemi gasped. "How did you know?" The congregation erupted into a frenzy, marveling at Mama's ability to know every details of their lives. In truth, she had used her mirror to summon Kemi's spirit in the night before, gathering all she needed to make the revelation sound divine. The church soon introduced holy water and miracle oil, bottled with simple labels but sold at exorbitant prices. Patricia would wave her hands over the items, claiming that they could cure any sickness, fix any marriage, and even bring financial blessings. When Elizabeth saw a struggling mother give her last savings for a tiny bottle of miracle oil, she clenched her fist, feeling her suspicions deepened. The next Sunday, Prophetess Patricia's voice echoed through the church as she scanned the congregation with piercing eyes, her gaze landing on a young man seated in the middle row. His name was Obiora, a quiet, newly returned graduate who had just come back from overseas with his mother to visit Patricia's church. Having heard of Mama See It All and her supposed divine revelations, they thought it was wise to seek a blessing. Patricia's face lit up as she beckoned Obiora forward. "Young man, please come forward." Obiora hesitated, but his mother nudged him, whispering, "Go, this could be your blessing." As Obiora stepped up to the front, Patricia raised her hand in what looked like a gesture of divine revelation. She took a deep breath, then announced dramatically, "The Lord has revealed something troubling to me, my son." The congregation was silent, hanging on every word. Patricia looked at Obiora with a heavy gaze, shaking her head slowly. "Young man, your life battery is running dangerously low. I see darkness ahead if nothing is done." Obiora felt his heart begin to pound. Life battery? He didn't understand, but he could see Patricia's grave expression. He swallowed nervously. "Mama, please, what does that mean?" Patricia placed a comforting hand on his shoulder and lowered her voice, so the tension in the air thickened. "It means, my son, that if something isn't done quickly, you won't live to see your 30s. Marriage, children, all of that will be lost to you unless you act now. Obiora's face turned pale. His mother gasped, clutching her chest in fear. But Patricia continued, raising her hand as if bestowing hope on him. The Lord has provided a solution. There is a way to renew your life battery, to ensure you live a long and prosperous life. She leaned in closer, her eyes narrowing with intensity. You must make a sacrifice, a powerful seed, something that costs you deeply. For the Lord blesses those who give from their hearts. Obiora's mother held him tight, her eyes wide with worry. What kind of sacrifice, Mama? She stammered. Patricia nodded as if she had expected the question. The Lord has directed me, she said, her voice dropping to a hush, that your son's life can be renewed with the sacrifice of a cow. Not just any cow, but one that symbolizes a new life, strong, healthy, and without blemish. Obiora's mind reeled at the thought. He had heard of sacrifices before, but had never been asked to make one for himself. Mama, I don't know where to get a cow now. Patricia waved her hand dismissively. Do not worry, my son. The Lord understands. You need not to go out and find a cow yourself. You can simply convert this sacrifice into a seed. Give the amount, and I will take care of the rest. The church has a way to handle these things. You just need to be obedient and trust in the word of the Lord. Obiora's mother whispered frantically in his ear, urging him to comply. Obiora, don't delay. Just do what Mama See It All says. Your life is worth more than any amount of money. Reluctantly, he agreed, pulling out his checkbook and writing a large sum. Patricia accepted the check with a smile of satisfaction. My son, your obedience has pleased the Lord. Your life is now in God's hand, and He will reward you for your sacrifice. Relieved but still shaken, Obiora returned to his seat, his mother clinging to him and thanking the prophetess profusely. But what he didn't know was that Patricia had no intention of buying any cow or offering any sacrifice. As she did with many others, she took the money straight to her ongoing project fund, adding it to the luxurious mansion she was constructing on the outskirts of town. This wasn't the first time she had used scare tactics to squeeze offering from her congregation, and it wouldn't be the last. Obiora's experience was just one of many in Patricia's church. Elizabeth watched from a distance as she gathered more stories like this. She saw the pattern and knew that these prophecies were nothing more than calculated lies to drain her followers financially. She began to find a means to expose her evil doings, though she knew it wouldn't be easy. She prayed that her efforts would one day set people like Obiora free, opening their eyes to the truth about Patricia's schemes. Elizabeth's resolve strengthened, fueled by her desire to protect innocent lives from falling into the same trap. Despite her growing doubts, Elizabeth kept attending the church, quietly observing. Then one service, she noticed something that she couldn't ignore. An elderly man in a wheelchair rode up to the altar. Mama See It All placed her hand on his forehead, murmuring a prayer. The man suddenly stood up, shaking with supposed new strength, while the congregation erupted in joyous shouts. Elizabeth, however, recognized him from a street market. He wasn't disabled at all. He was an actor paid to pretend for this miracle. Over time, Patricia had become one of the wealthiest women in the area. With a mansion filled with gold-plated furniture, expensive cars, and personal staff. She called it a reward from God, but Elizabeth knew that no blessing had yet arrived for her poor neighbors who continued to give until they had nothing left. Amid all her schemes, Patricia wielded her power not only to deceive but to control lives, even breaking up families for her own selfish desires. She took a particular interest in wealthy, influential men who attended her church, especially those she sensed could be easily manipulated. If she set her sight on a married man, she will concoct visions and divine revelations that cast doubt upon his wife, creating chaos in the household. During one particular scandalous service, Patricia singled out a successful businessman named Mr. Okeke. She called him to the front of the congregation, dramatically raising her hand as though she's receiving divine message. "Brother Okeke," she declared, "the Lord is showing me a troubling vision. A dark cloud surrounding your household. Someone close to you, someone you trust deeply, is working against your blessings." As expected, Mr. Okeke looked alarmed. His eyes widened with shock and fear. "Prophetess, who could it be?" he asked desperately, eager to protect his fortune and his family. Patricia leaned in, lowering her voice to a solemn whisper. "It's your wife. I see her spirit entangled in the web of envy and greed, blocking your breakthroughs," she added. "But fear not, Mama See It All is here to help you. With my special guidance, I can break this curse." Over time, Patricia convinced Mr. Okeke that his wife's supposed negative energy was the reason for his business struggles. She encouraged him to distance himself emotionally, assuring him that deliverance would come if he followed her instructions. What she didn't tell Mr. Okeke was her real motive. She intended to draw him closer to her, knowing he was vulnerable. She began sending him private messages, inviting him to special prayer sessions at her mansion under the pretext of purging his spirit of his wife's supposed bad influence. This session, however, soon took a different turn. Patricia manipulated Mr. Okeke, feeding him flattering words and assuring of a life filled with blessings if he would satisfy her desires. In no time, Mr. Okeke found himself entangled in an affair with Patricia, convinced that his loyalty to her would bring him divine favor. This pattern repeated with other wealthy men in the congregation. Patricia sowed seeds of doubt between husband and wives. Elizabeth, the young woman who had been investigating Patricia, grew increasingly disturbed as she learned of these manipulative tactics. This wasn't just a spiritual deception. It was a web of lies that destroyed families and tore relationships apart. Patricia's actions were beyond sinful. They were predatory. Another unsettling practice was that Patricia claimed she could bless any jerrycan of water, transforming it into a holy remedy for all problems, illness, financial troubles for a fee. People would leave their jerrycans of water in her office for prayers. Behind closed doors, Patricia would simply pour a pack of salt and sugar into each jerrycan, saying, "Now take this water home and drink from it each day." The salt and sugar created a slight change in taste, fooling congregants into believing the water was truly blessed. One evening, Elizabeth overheard a conversation between two of Patricia's closest aides, Felix and Linda, discussing the jerrycan tricks. "Can you believe they are paying that much just for a dash of salt and sugar?" Linda laughed, shaking her head. Elizabeth felt a surge of fear but stood her ground, her heart filled with the courage to see her mission through. She knew Patricia's days of deception were numbered. The truth was out there, ready to be revealed, and there was no turning back now. Another fateful night, Driven by a mixture of curiosity and courage, Elizabeth decided to follow Patricia. She waited in the bush near the river behind Patricia's mansion, clutching her phone tightly, hoping to capture whatever dark secret lay hidden. The clock struck midnight. Elizabeth saw Patricia emerge from her mansion. She moved gracefully towards the river, her steps almost gliding across the ground. Elizabeth's heart raced as she watched Patricia pause at the riverbank. The prophetess looked up at the sky and began chanting in a strange language, one that sounded ancient and unsettling. Then, before Elizabeth's very eyes, Patricia's form began to change. Her skin shimmered and scales emerged, covering her body as her legs melded together. Her eyes glowed as she slithered silently into the water, disappearing beneath the surface with a splash. Elizabeth gasped, barely able to process what she had seen. She realized then that Patricia was not just a fraud. She was something beyond human, something malevolent. Elizabeth stumbled back, her mind racing. This truth was more terrifying than she could ever imagine. Patricia wasn't merely deceiving her congregation. She was manipulating them with powers that stemmed from the depths of a dark occultic world. The next morning, Elizabeth returned to the church, her spirit heavy but resolved. She knew now that her mission was not just to reveal Patricia's fraudulent practices, but to expose the dangerous forces she was harnessing. But Patricia, aware of Elizabeth's growing suspicion, took note. Her piercing gaze lingered on Elizabeth during the service, her smile as sharp as a blade. During the altar call that day, Patricia announced that she had a special blessing for one person in the congregation who was called to serve a divine mission. She fixed her gaze on Elizabeth, who froze as Patricia called her forward. "Elizabeth, come forward." Patricia's voice was smooth but laced with an undertone of menace. "The Lord has shown me that you carry a heavy burden. Come, let Mama see it all, lift it from you." Elizabeth's heart pounded, but she stepped forward, not wanting to reveal her fear. As Patricia laid a cold hand on her forehead, Elizabeth felt a chilling sensation run through her body. She heard Patricia whisper in her ear, "You are treading dangerous waters, my child. Be careful, for some secrets are not meant to be uncovered." Elizabeth swallowed hard but refused to back down. She would continue her mission to expose Patricia, but she now knew the stakes were higher than she had imagined. There was no turning back now. Elizabeth's courage became her guiding light as she continued to gather evidence against Patricia. With every passing day, she uncovered more layers of deception and dark manipulation, which confirmed that Patricia's reach went beyond mere trickery. It was now clear to Elizabeth that her mission was about more than just exposing Patricia's lies. It was about freeing innocent souls bound by Patricia's sinister practices. When Elizabeth finally released her gathered recordings, photos, and testimonies to the media, the world was shocked. Reports spread like wildfire, exposing Patricia's deceitful miracles, staged healings, and occult connections. Congregants who had once revered her now reeled with disbelief, feeling betrayed by the persons they once called Mama See It All. Many wept openly, mourning the years and money they had poured into her ministry, only to realize it had all been a carefully orchestrated illusion. In her final address to the church, Elizabeth spoke to the congregation, offering words of wisdom. "My brothers and sisters, this experience has taught me something crucial. Just because someone calls themselves a prophet or a servant of God doesn't mean they are. We must be discerning and vigilant. Seeking the truth beyond appearances. Not every church or prayer house represents God's light, and not everyone who claims to be a pastor is genuine. Elizabeth went on to remind everyone that while Patricia's story had cast a dark shadow, it didn't mean all spiritual leaders were deceivers. There are true servants of God, men and women who work tirelessly in humility and sincerity to bring God's love and truth to His people. They don't ask for wealth or demand strange sacrifices. They simply live in a way that reflects the goodness and mercy of the Almighty. Thank you for watching. Please, if you enjoyed this story, please consider liking, commenting your thoughts, subscribing to my channel. Thank you so much, and see you on my next story.